Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
And it's our festival unit today, and we're going to be talking about the Tong Blossom Festival, which mainly takes place in Miaoli County, but there are all sorts of other activities that take place in the month of May concerning the Tong Blossom, which is those white flowers that fall from those trees called the Tong Shu or Tong Tree in English.
Oh, I love them. They're so pretty.
I do too.
Yeah. Tong blossoms. A blossom, guys, is the flower or even a lot of flowers on a tree or a bush. So these trees produce these beautiful blossoms. We call them flowers sometimes, but they are officially called blossoms. And they come out when spring happens. So we know that spring is here and summer's just around the corner.
We've got apple blossoms, and here in Taiwan, of course, we've got cherry blossoms, and now we've got tong blossoms from the tong tree. I remember when I first saw this phenomenon, I wanted to know the name of that tree in English, but there isn't really a word, so we have to say the tong tree. So we're talking about the dance of the graceful tong blossoms in today's lesson. Let's read the entire contents of our lesson right now.
Snow is a rare occurrence in Taiwan. However, the crisp breeze between the months of April and May causes white, translucent tong blossoms to dance around like snowflakes in the sky. As soon as the wind blows, picnic benches, railroad tracks, pavements, green grass, and shrubbery are blanketed in delicate tong petals. The landscape resembles a winter wonderland without the frigid temperature. This remarkable scene intrigues people to travel to northern and central Taiwan to admire the exquisite tong blossoms and experience the rich culture closely connected to the tong tree. Native to China's Yangtze River, the tong tree made its way into Taiwan during the time of Japanese occupation. Tong trees were cultivated in areas where high concentrations of Hakka populations settled. Thus, although these trees can be found widely throughout Taiwan, they mostly grow in abundance on the hills of Miaoli. The tong tree is not just a pretty sight, but also an important source of income for the Hakka, who once relied heavily on this resource. The tong tree is of great historic significance, as it helped generations of Hakka people survive. The wood of the tong tree was used as a raw material to make toothpicks, matches, and furniture. Furthermore, oil was extracted from the tong tree to make paints, wood varnishes, and lamp fuels. Therefore, the Hakka have great reverence for the tong tree. Taiwan has admired the splendor of tong blossoms for many decades. However, it was not until 2002 that the Hakka Affairs Council organized the Hakka Tong Blossom Festival. The festival lasts for several weeks and features different cultural events across Taiwan. Visitors can gaze at hilltops and forest floors carpeted in tong blossoms, enjoy a traditional Hakka meal, and be serenaded by Hakka folk music. Don't miss out on the opportunity to witness this magnificent display of nature at this year's festival.
It is time now for us to discuss the contents of today's lesson. It's our festival, the Dance of the Graceful Tong Blossoms, or the Tong Blossom Festival. And a lot of times, of course, people celebrate the Tong Blossom Festival alongside the fireflies. They kind of come out at the same time this year, so people are really busy celebrating the wonders of nature here in Taiwan at this time of year. Now, snow is a rare occurrence in Taiwan. despite what happened back in January. It snowed in several places in Taiwan.
It was very fun.
It was fun. A lot of people went to see snow for the first time in their lives.
Know.
It was quite exciting to see there. So still, it's a rare occurrence. An occurrence is when something happens. It's an event. It's an incident. It's a happening, an occurrence. And oftentimes we do use this word occurrence when we talk about something that doesn't really happen that often. It's a rare occurrence. Or tornadoes are a rare occurrence in Taiwan. They do happen sometimes, but they're very rare. It's a rare occurrence.
Well, we're talking about a scene here. We've got a crisp breeze between the months of April and May, and that's what causes these white translucent tongue blossoms to dance around like snowflakes in the sky. We're comparing them to snowflakes. Crisp here doesn't mean 脆脆的. It means very cool, kind of like you need a sweater, you know. I love crisp, cool weather.
Especially if it's kind of cool and the air is very clean.
Now, these blossoms, these little flowers that float around in the air, they're white, they're translucent, which means you can see through them. So that's kind of cool. And they're dancing in the air with that breeze, and they kind of remind us of snowflakes in the sky. Although, like Tom said, we don't get to see snow very often in Taiwan.
Yeah, it's a rare occurrence, and again, they're translucent. That means light can pass through them, but you can't really see clearly what's on the other side. So glass is transparent. The light passes through and you can see what's on the other side, but sometimes like frosted glass is translucent. So you can see the light coming through, but you can't really tell what's on the other side. And yes, these petals from the blossoms are dancing around in the sky as soon as the wind blows. My goodness, picnic benches, railroad tracks, pavements, green grass, and shrubbery are blanketed in delicate tongue petals. So yes, the wind blows these blossoms and the petals off of the trees. The flower is composed of individual parts of the flower called petals. Those are the smaller parts of a flower that are part of the outside of the flower. And they dance around and they land on picnic benches, on railroad tracks, on pavements like sidewalks and roads and stuff, on the grass. Also shrubbery, which are like little bushes, little shrubs. And to blanket here as a verb just means something is covered with something. Like sometimes when it snows, the ground is blanketed with snow. These are delicate tongue petals. Delicate means they're very fine in texture. They're really wonderful and they're really exquisite to look at.
They sure are. I love them. Now, the landscape that we're talking about here resembles a winter wonderland. Kind of like it is located in a place with a lot of snow, where snow blankets the ground. A wonderland just means a really beautiful place that you enjoy yourself while you're there. So if something resembles something else, it has qualities or features that are similar or are common with something else. Maybe you resemble your father, for example. Or you've been to a country and parts of that country's scenery actually resemble Taiwan in some places. Well, this landscape we've been describing with the tongue blossoms actually looks like a winter wonderland in a place that typically has a lot of snow. But the big difference is here in Taiwan, we don't have the frigid temperature that they often have in cold areas of the world. Frigid means really, really cold.
That's right. So indeed, this is a winter wonderland. Oh, I wish I could break into song right now and start singing Walking in a Winter Wonderland. But again, I can't because it's not so cold here, so we don't have these frigid temperatures, but it does kind of look like it's snowing.
Yeah.
And this remarkable scene intrigues people to travel to northern and central Taiwan to admire the exquisite tongue blossoms and to experience the rich culture closely connected to the tongue tree. So this indeed is a remarkable scene. A scene is something you see, and remarkable means it's worthy of attention. It's something worth talking about. Ooh, That's quite remarkable. It's quite wonderful. And here we have the verb to intrigue, which means it kind of causes you to be curious about something or to be interested in something. It's fascinating. It intrigues you, and it gives people the idea to travel to northern and central Taiwan to admire those tongue blossoms, which are quite exquisite. Exquisite here is similar to delicate. It just means very pretty, very wonderful with a lot of details and something you're going to pay a lot of attention to.
Yeah, quite beautiful too. We'll often use it to talk about someone's taste in something. If you have very good taste, maybe you've been educated in I don't know, artwork perhaps. You have exquisite taste in art. Or maybe you have a lot of experience with clothes and design, and you usually dress in exquisite clothing. You have very good taste. So beautiful, also delicate. Also, it gives you this idea that someone's sophisticated too. So these are beautiful blossoms, and if you've been to northern and central Taiwan to see them, you've been able to experience the rich culture that's closely connected to the tong tree. Now, we're going to talk about where this tong blossom and the tong tree come from. Next in this paragraph that starts with native. Native to China's Yangtze River. Some people say Yangtze River. You know, the English pronunciation's a little weird. It's not even close to the Chinese. So it's weird to know how regular foreigners say this. Yangtze, I've heard Yangtze River, Yangtze. So just be aware that when foreigners who don't speak Chinese say this, kind of, you have to think quickly. What are they talking about?
Yeah, I think this river has different names. It's had different names throughout Chinese history. And I think in the very eastern part of China, it does have a name that sounds like this in Chinese. So Westerners learned that name for the river in that part of China. So they used it to refer to all of that river. But nowadays, I think Changjiang is becoming more popular in English as well. But in any case, this tree, I guess, grew on the banks of the Yangtze River, and somehow it made its way to Taiwan during the time of Japanese occupation, also referred to the Japanese colonial era. Occupation just refers to when an army usually is in a certain place and controlling it.
Yeah, they invade. They're not welcome.
Yeah, it kind of depends on your perspective here. Some people look back and say, oh, the Japanese colonial era was a wonderful time. Whereas other people say, no, Japanese people were here occupying Taiwan. They were invaders. This is a very political issue. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want someone to come here and cut my throat.
I wanted to mention that if you're native to a place or somewhere, here we're saying these trees are native to China's Yangtze River, it just means that's where they originate. That's where they come from. Right now, guys, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenny. 今天我们看的是第15单元。我们今天的重点呢，是在台湾这里有一个桐花节。我们来看看这个5月飞雪的故事。首先，我们知道在台湾很难得会下雪，所以他说是 Snow is a rare occurrence. 那4月到5月呢，风吹来，然后吹动了纯白半透明的油桐花，看起来就像飘雪一样。我们谈到油桐花，在英文里面其实它就用 tone 这个字。好，来我们来看一下这个片语句型。它提到说，风一吹起来，这到处都是白色的油桐花瓣。As soon as， 这个就是一怎么样就怎么样。这个片语其实蛮常见的，但是要记得它是一个连接词片语，所以它后面要接的是一个完整的子句，有主词有动词。好 as soon as 它其实所描述的事情一怎么样就怎么样，可以是谈现在未来过去都没有关系。好，那这边说到的这个景象其实是一般我们都会看到的，只要在4月5月之间都是如此，所以它其实整个时间是现在式。我们来看下面呢，还有一个就是重要的一个词汇 blanket。 当我们看到这边它在描述这种花覆盖在每一个地方的时候，它用的一个动词，想想看 blanket 我们把它当名词来看是毯子，可是这边的毯子已经把它变成动词的用法了，它其实就等于 cover， 所以当你说 are blanketed in， 那就相当于说 are covered in。 我们再往下读，下面呢提到这么美的风景，但是又不冷，那真的会让人很想去。所以说在台湾中北部这个地方呢，到了4、5月，那可是旅游的胜地，大家都想来看这样的5月雪。那我们要来看一下历史的部分。油桐树开始其实并不是在台湾，它呢要追溯到长江流域这边的油桐树，而且时间是在日据时期。我们先看这句话，它在描述历史上，他说 being native to China's Yangtze River， 这个 Yangtze River 指的就是扬子江，也就是长江。我们知道在文法上如果说你是用分词构句的句型，然后这个分词构句里面呢用到的那个动词是 be 动词，接着写一个形容词的话，那分词构句里面的 being 是可以省略掉的，你只要保留那个形容词就可以，因为基本上它整个就像一个形容词的片语一样来修饰你这句后面真正的主词跟动词。所以说前半这里你直接用 native 开头，这样子还是一个形容词片语，不违反所谓的我们分词构句句型的要求。
We're going to take a quick break, but stay tuned, we'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue with our lesson. Again, we're talking about the Tonghua Festival, or Tong Blossom Festival, I should say. My goodness, I've been in Taiwan too long that it's kind of hard to say these things in English sometimes. But this is the Tong Blossom Festival going on right now in the month of May in parts of Taiwan, mostly in the center and northern parts of Taiwan. We talked about how the Tong tree got to Taiwan. I guess the Japanese brought it here when they occupied Taiwan or during the period of Japanese colonialization here. And Tong trees were cultivated in areas where high concentrations of Hakka populations settled. The Hakka, or Kejia, as you say in Mandarin, but Hakka is the name in Hakka, and so in English we say Hakka. And to cultivate means that people grow plants for the purpose of using them, either to harvest them and make them into food and stuff like that. So the Tong trees were planted here. They're cultivated in areas which happen to have high concentrations of Hakka people. A concentration is just where there is a lot of something, a concentration. So, yes, there's a high concentration of, say, black people in American cities, for example. They have high black populations there, high concentrations of their populations. And here in Taiwan, there are high concentrations of Hakka in Miaoli and in Hsinchu and in Pingdong.
Now, thus, it says, although these trees can be found widely throughout Taiwan, they're everywhere, actually. They mostly or primarily grow in abundance on the hills of Miaoli. In abundance. The word abundance itself just means in a large quantity or a large amount of something. If you use in abundance, notice it's following a verb. So you can do something in abundance, grow in abundance, but you could also use it differently. You could say there's an abundance of tong trees on the hills of Miaoli, or the tong trees grow abundantly on the hills of Miaoli. So you can use it in different ways, but if it follows the verb there, you'll need that preposition in abundance. to do something in abundance.
And these, of course, are very common in the hills of Miaoli County, and not so much the city. Now, the tong tree, here's the next paragraph here. It says, the tong tree is not just a pretty sight, but also an important source of income for the Hakka, who once relied heavily on this resource. So, indeed, the tong tree is pretty, especially with its flowers. When it doesn't have the flowers on the trees, nobody notices these trees. In fact, nobody probably knows what a tong tree looks like.
I do.
Without the flowers, or you do.
I do, yeah.
But in any case here, yes, the tree is not only a pretty sight or something pretty to look at, but it's also a source of income. It's a kind of resource. A resource, of course, is something that you can use to make money. Resources, natural resources, for example, would be minerals or diamonds or oil in the ground. I guess these trees were cultivated by the Hakka for various reasons.
They really do use the tong tree for lots of different things. It says here, the tong tree is of great historic significance to them. So if you talk about something being a significance, it means it's important. But if you add historic in front of significance, it means it's been important to them throughout history. So it's been important to them for quite a while. It's helped generations of Hakka people. So it's helped people in that particular group for quite a while. How do they use it? Well, let's take a look. The wood of the tong tree was used as a raw material to make toothpicks, matches, and furniture. So you have to cut down the tree, and those logs of wood are actually the raw material, right? And then you take the raw material and you produce different things, different products from that. Toothpicks, we know what those are, matches that start fires, and furniture. I didn't know that furniture was made out of tong tree. Now, furthermore, oil was also extracted from the tong tree to make paints, wood varnishes, and lamp fuels. Wow. They must get that from the trunk, right?
I guess so. Kind of like maple syrup from a maple tree, so they can get this oil from a tong tree. They can make paints with it to paint houses and stuff, and wood varnishes. A varnish is some kind of a chemical, some kind of liquid from a tree, and then you mix it with water, and then you kind of brush it onto wood, and it protects the wood. It becomes clear and hard. You can still see the wood through it, so that's a varnish. And also fuels for lamps, so they could burn those lamps. We don't really need those anymore because we have electricity. So they kind of extracted that oil from the tree. They kind of sucked it out of the tree. It came out of the tree. And indeed, therefore, the Hakka have great reverence for the tong tree. Reverence here just means a lot of respect.
Yeah, respect or honor for something or someone. For example, maybe you have great reverence for your culture, your ancestors, people who came before you in your family. Well, they knew and understood that the tong tree allowed them to survive. That was a way to make a living. So they really have great reverence for the tong tree. You can also be reverent and show respect and honor. Moving ahead, it says that Taiwan has admired the splendor of tong blossoms for many decades. A decade is 10 years. So many decades would probably be, 10, 50, 80, who knows how long. The splendor. When you talk about the splendor of something, it just means the beauty, the magnificent and grandeur, the appearance. You're usually talking about the appearance of something.
Something really magnificent, too, like the splendor of the Central Mountain Range or the splendor of Taroko Gorge, for example.
Love.
So, yes, indeed, people in Taiwan have admired the splendor of the tong blossoms for a long time, as you said, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, whatever. That's many decades, periods of 10 years. It was not until 2002 that the Hakka Affairs Council organized the Hakka Tong Blossom Festival. The Hakka Affairs Council is, I guess, must be some part of the government here, which takes care of things that have to do with Hakka people and Hakka culture, and Hakka language and stuff like that. They decided, hey, we're going to celebrate the Hakka people here in Taiwan by having this Hakka Tong Blossom Festival. And the festival lasts for several weeks and features different cultural events across Taiwan. So yes, you can go check out those trees indeed, but there are also other cultural events that take place. As we're going to find out here, you can hear music and stuff like that, and visitors can gaze at hilltops and forest floors carpeted in Tong Blossom. Okay, we used the word blanket before as a verb. Carpet here is basically the same thing, just something is on the ground and you can see it there. So yes, indeed, those Tong blossoms fall from the trees and they carpet the forest floors just like it has snowed.
How beautiful. You can also enjoy a traditional Hakka meal and be serenaded by Hakka folk music.
Ooh.
If you are serenaded, that's beidong. That's a passive form of this. If you're serenaded by someone, it means they're either singing to you or entertaining you by playing some music. So here's our last sentence, and our advice is, don't miss out on the opportunity to witness this magnificent display of nature at this year's festival. You want to go. Don't miss the opportunity to see it. Magnificent is actually very similar to something being just spectacular. You know?
Indeed, spectacular,
beautiful.
Magnificent, splendorous.
Awesome.
Awesome, indeed. So,
Lovely.
Yes, indeed, this is a magnificent display of nature. Enjoy the Tonghua Festival while it still lasts.
Yeah.
It might be just going on for a few more days now, but in any case, it's going to be a lot of fun. And right now, we're going to say goodbye after we hear from our Chinese teacher.
好，那再来这边提到了，它来源是在大陆这边长江流域，然后在日据时期引进台湾。那油桐树呢，它其实是客家人住的很多的地方所种植的，所以尽管台湾到处都有油桐树，可是最多的油桐树还是被发现在哪里呢？在苗栗山区，这里住着最多的客家人。来，我们看一下这个片语 grow in abundance。 我们知道 abundance 这个是个名词，那它的形容词是结尾 t abundant。 abundance 就代表大量的， in abundance 其实就表示大量。好，那当你谈到油桐树，它很多很多大量的油桐树，你可以用in abundance 这个片语来修饰它。我们下面呢继续来看油桐树有什么样的价值。它其实不光是美而已，它呢在早先的时候还是客家人在这边一个重要的收入来源。提到这个油桐树，他还说了基本上具有历史的意义。来，我们看有一个字叫 significance， significance 就代表重要性。那我们也知道跟刚刚那个 abundance 一样， abundance 它 ce 结尾是名词，而 t 结尾是它的形容词。这边的 significance ce 结尾是名词， t 结尾 significant 就是它的形容词。那我们这边他写了一个 of great historic significance。 我们知道英文里面呢用 of 这个介系词，然后后面呢加上一个名词之后，它本身片语就形成了一个像形容词功能的一个片语。如果你讲 of significance 就是等于 significant。 其他的字像如果你放 value， 比如说 the book is of great value， 那意思就是说这本书是怎么样 is very valuable。 所以你知道这个名词跟形容词之间的转换靠着一个 of 然后再加名词，其实这个片语的形式是可以相等于一个形容词字眼的。那我们继续来往下读，下面呢还有一个句型我们要特别注意，因为谈到了桐花，在台湾这里其实呢是一直到2002年才开始有这个客家桐花季。这边提到时间，他用到了一个句型 It was not until 2002 that。 我们知道其实这个 it was not until 跟后面的 that 整个是一个分裂句型， 当然当我们谈时间是直到什么时候才怎么样，我们就会用这样的句型 not until 摆在分列句的前面，到了那个时间，后面的事情才发生。好，注意这个句型，我们下次见咯。
Okay, that brings us to the end of our program for today. Thank you so much for joining us, but don't waste time listening to us right now. Get outside and check out those tongue blossoms and celebrate Hakka culture. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.